Guys, if there is one thing I could change about the C5 Corvette, it would be its tendency to want a wheel hop. Wheel hop also happens to be the #1 reason for differential destruction. Well, stay tuned because we're going to dig deep into this subject and see if we can come up with some real-world solutions. Next.
Toys for life.
Unfortunately, the wheel hop issue is nothing new to C5 owners. When I first started researching this issue, I came across no shortage of ideas on how to tackle the problem. In case you're trying to tackle this issue yourself, I'm going to start out with a couple of the more obvious things that you're going to want to take care of before trying to eliminate this pesky wheel hop villain. First off, if you're running 6-year-old run flat tires, they're not going to get any traction ever. So you're going to have to ditch those for a good set of ultra high performance summer tires. Secondly, if you've got a manual transmission and your idea of a launch is revving it to 5,000 RPM and just dropping the clutch, that's never a good idea for getting good traction. The third thing that I tried was to upgrade my C5's relatively soft existing shocks, and I went with C6 Z06 shocks. The reason I chose to do that at this point in time was it was an upgrade I was going to do anyway, and by doing it now, if it didn't work, I could at least eliminate it from one of the variables that could potentially be leading to the wheel hop issue. While I'm happy to say that the C6 Z06 shocks really did a nice job firming up the ride, they really didn't help the wheel hop issue in any material way. Next, while watching all kinds of C5 videos on YouTube, I noticed there's a lot of them that have some sort of a hop issue upon takeoff. Here's some recent footage of one launching, and you can easily see by watching the exhaust pipes, there's a lot of shake going on there. Let me slow it down to slow motion, and you can see it even better. It appears this problem even happened when they were new. Here's a little video from Motor Week of a C5, and you can hear the wheel hop taking place if you listen closely.
And no substitute for its awesome low-end grunt.
Next, I've got a video from Motor Trend. This is a C6 Z06, and if you listen closely on this one, you can absolutely hear the driveline shake / wheel hop.
Before the engine reaches fourth.
The next thing I decided to do is to install a camera aiming right at the rear diff to see what was going on when I launched the car, even just lightly. And I was amazed at what I saw. Here's a shot of when I did a slight launch in the driveway. Now this is hardly even launching. Look at how that stock mount shakes. So based upon the visual evidence that I just presented, we clearly have to do something about the C5's excessive drivetrain movement. As you may know, the C5's drivetrain is supported in 3 locations. There's 2 up front, 1 under each side of the block, and there's 1 in the back, as we already saw, that supports the transaxle. Now, I drive this C5 a lot, so I want to do everything I can to minimize the amount of drivetrain movement, while at the same time I really don't want to introduce any unnecessary vibration from the drivetrain into the chassis. So what I've decided to do is start with replacing the transaxle mount. So we'll see how far that takes us down the road towards minimizing drivetrain shake / wheel hop while minimizing vibration. The mount offered by HighPerformanceInjectors.com stood out to me as being a well-engineered piece at a very fair price of about $230. So I called the folks up at HPI Injectors. I told them a little bit about Toys for Life C5, how we're a YouTube channel that focuses primarily on C5 Corvettes and everything that we can do to make them better. And here we are. We've got the main beam, which is 6061 T6 aluminum. It's anodized for a long life. We've got poly bumps on each side. That'll help take care of the load under hard acceleration. And then the other part has got a poly mount as well. So in a minute, when we get the old mount out, we'll compare the rigidity of the new bushing versus the old one. HighPerformanceInjectors.com was even kind enough to send out a nice decal, and I've got just the place for this. The first step in installing the HPI mount is to get the C5 up in the air. This can easily be accomplished with the jack and jack stands, but I'm going to go ahead and use the max jacks. All right, the first order of business, this is what we got to remove. First thing we're going to do is remove these 2 18mm nuts on the bottom. Next, we're going to use a jack, and we're going to lift up on the transaxle a little bit, just to lift it up around 1/8 of an inch or so. That gives us just enough room to sneak in a socket wrench to remove the bolt holding the mount to the transaxle on the passenger side. Now we'll do the exact same thing on the driver's side. Next, we're going to jack up the transaxle until it just touches the SMC tub. Finally, we can remove the mount by tilting it towards the rear of the car and lifting it out. Next, we're going to remove the dampener. It's no longer needed with the poly mount that we're installing, so we'll just take it off. From the side, I've got an extension on there with a 13mm, and there's 2 screws. And if you wiggle it, it should come out by moving it forward and drop it down between the leaf spring and the cradle. Now we've got the HPI mounted in the vise, and other than a little bit of movement between the vise and the workbench, there's no movement in the bushing. Now we've got the stock transaxle mount in the vise, and as you can see, with very little effort, it's all over the place. I was having some difficulty getting the beam to bolt up to the transaxle, so I opened up the holes with a 13/32 drill bit, and the issue was solved. It is a snug fit, but with a little patience and perseverance, you can get it into position and bolted to the transaxle. Carefully lower the transaxle down, just enough to install the main bolt, and then go ahead and torque it to spec. And finally, reattach the nuts, attaching the mount to the cradle. Okay, one more quick peek before we drop the car down. Make sure everything is secured, zip ties. Make sure your brake lines are routed properly. Nothing's going to rub on anything and cause a problem. When you're satisfied everything is secure, you're done. Guys, I've got about 20 miles on this now under all kinds of driving conditions, and my first impressions really are this. Number one, the drivetrain feels much more connected to the chassis, so that's a huge thing for performance. Number two, the wheel hop situation. Although it's not 100% cured, it is substantially better, and I'm confident that what remains has nothing to do with the diff mount and more to do with control arms and motor mounts. And third, since I've mentioned that I'm extremely sensitive to vibration and noise and things like that, I would say the vibration is marginally noticeable. Very minimal, much less than I expected. So I would recommend this product, absolutely. And if you are interested in this product, I'll leave a discount code in the description below. It's Toys for Life Space C5, and I'll leave it in the description as long as it's valid. Guys, that does it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like and subscribe button. And as always, thanks for watching.